Hello Internet, Rick here as usual and joined by my stalwart Vault Tech dweller companion, Tyr.
Hey Internet peoples.
So this is the pseudo sort of podcast, videocast, discussion show, transmissions that we do maybe once or twice a year, even though it's meant to be more frequent than that, but it never works out that way. But yeah, this is more of an informal discussion show where we're going to be talking about various topics that are relevant at the time that we feel we want to talk about. Today we're going to be talking primarily about Fallout 76, the stellar, amazing new release from Bethesda. Yeah. And then some general channel updates and the future of the channel, as well as mentioning our opinions on this Article 13 debacle that's been cropping up. No doubt you've probably seen it, adverts all over YouTube, notifications being sent out. In fact, even our actual channel itself, as a content creator, we're getting emails about it, talking about it as well. So yeah, gonna mention that as well.
And obviously for our further afield listeners, this might be coming as new information to you, so we want to bring some light to it. Yeah,
I mean, YouTube's been pushing the content really heavily, and so have like a bunch of other channels, but yeah, still. Anyway, that comes at the end of the channel, so we're going to get to the meat of the show is going to be Fallout 76 first, which we have both been playing since launch, although I didn't play the beta. Did you?
I didn't, no, but I know a few people who did.
Yeah, but from what it sounds like the beta was pretty much the full release of the game anyway, with nothing actually fixed in between.
But with very limited times that you could actually log on to it. So.
Yeah. Again, like I know a guy that was logging on at like 2 o'clock every day to play it, 2 in the morning, that is, over here. But yeah, I've been playing it since it came out on launch. And of course paid full price for it. Bought a second copy as well so that we could play it co-op.
Definitely not regretting that.
Yeah, that's what we're going to get to talking about. So, first off, yeah, are you actually, simply, are you enjoying it?
Well, for the moment, when not having the game bug out or crash on me, yeah, I am.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, that is the big caveat, isn't it? When it's working properly, I'm actually having fun with it. Now, I know I can completely see the reason why it is getting so much negativity, because trust me, I agree with most of it and I can't even argue against it. It is a broken game.
It's not even an opinion, it's just a baseline fact.
Yeah, it is busted, but I am getting some enjoyment out of it. Am I getting like 50 quid, $60 worth of enjoyment out of it? No, probably not. But I am getting, I am finding some fun from it. Basic opinions, in the gist of it, what do you think of it?
It's a buggy mess of the game, but you could enjoy it when you've got friends. But then again, going out and doing anything is often more fun with friends. But does that really make it a good game?
Yeah, exactly. Like any game is better with more people playing it, especially if you're on the same sort of goofy mindset. Of course, it's going to be way more fun with friends. Anything else?
Well, why don't we get into some pros and cons of what we think of it, because that will probably break it down a little bit more.
Yeah, okay, cool. So, yeah, all in all, I am enjoying this game. But like you say, it is buggy and there's no way you can justify that kind of release. It shouldn't have been released in the state it is in. Go with the pros, the positives first, because we're an optimistic channel, all about hope and a good tomorrow. Somewhere, maybe, eventually.
Which kind of goes against the whole Fallout ethos, but...
But yeah, it's about rebuilding America. Anyway, pros. The actual landscape itself, the map, the size, and the diversity that you've got in the terrain and the environments and the biomes, it's proper incredible. Like, on one side of the map, it is grasslands, hills, and forests. I mean, forests everywhere, because of course there is. It's Virginia.
Which is a bit of a new scope for Fallout, because they've not really done that. It's mainly been a radioactive wasteland, but
yeah,
Appalachia is definitely a more lush green environment.
Yeah, but then on the opposite side of the map, you've got the mires and the swamps. You've got the Savage Divide in the middle, which is like a rocky, more like canyon. Down south, you've got the ashlands, and then you've got this really weird red fungusy area that's like full of mutated plants, all the way in the corner of the map. And yeah, like a theme park, and even like a, I think it's Hindu-inspired shrine, like all the way at the very northern easterly corner of the map.
Yeah, which is actually harken back to a feeling of Far Cry with the inspiration of that one.
You reckon? I know it's based on a real location, but yeah, I can see that as well, like Far Cry 4?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the like the scale and the environment of the game is definitely a pro for me. It stands out amongst other Fallout titles in many a bad way, but in this one particular aspect, I think the diversity of the landscape is amazing.
It's certainly ambitious.
Yeah, and there are several locations that I've been in. I'll try and get one playing up on the screen as we're talking about it, but there's one dungeon that I went into called the Uncanny Caverns, which was super atmospheric. I went in by myself and I ended up being ambushed by a Wendigo, and that was just terrifying. So there are these moments in it that are proper amazing. And again, it's created by the diversity of these landscapes and everything, and I like how open format it's become. There's less of these secular instanced dungeons like in the previous Fallout titles where you enter a room and you have to go through a loading screen. There's less of that. A lot of these biomes are just open to the world. Now these loading screen isolated rooms are still there, of course, but yeah, a lot of structures that you'd think would be boarded off, click A on the door and then loading screen, are actually door swings open and you can walk straight on in, and that sort of openness to it is pretty impressive. Unfortunately, the frame rate doesn't always appreciate it. But yeah, and I think the other big positive I've got for the game is that there is so much lore and just background information spread throughout this game. But that's about the only positive sort of thing relating to the lore that I can give, which I'll touch into in a minute with my cons. But the amount of lore and background information there is, you really do get the sense that this world was inhabited by a community. And it is explained, as it's been mentioned, there are no NPCs in this game, at least no human ones, but through everything that you find scattered around and the environmental storytelling that Bethesda's known for, you do definitely get the sense that this was a thriving, functional community. It's just missing all the people. So those are my sort of pros for this.
Well, I would feel some of the pros. I mean, obviously the ones that you've touched on, but
yep.
One of the big ones for me is actually the weapon variety you get in it. Obviously, it being a multiplayer game with what feels like limitless customization options. Having the ability to spec into melee or ranged, ballistics or energy weapons, such as you do in normal Fallout games, is nice. It's harkening back to what they have, but the sheer quantity of various different weapons, the fact that they've added some new stuff in there. Well, I say new as in World War II era and earlier. So they've added some.
What's the
black powder rifles?
I was going to say, what's the weirdest weapon you found? I've had a crossbow.
Yeah, which is a new one in the Fallout series.
Yeah.
I think the weirdest one I found was probably a Mr. Handy arm on a garden pruner extension. That was a little bit odd. Ballistics and energy weapon customization is very, very good. It doesn't let it change your weapons to exactly what you want them to be. Granted, it's a little bit grindy. You have to collect junk, which then you turn into scrap, and then
same as Fallout 4.
Yeah, exactly the same as Fallout 4. A little bit more convoluted because there is a lot more of it, and that's kind of how you get everything done in it. It's very similar to if you're playing Fallout 4 on survival. You actually have to monitor your hunger and thirst, which is nice to have to do. I think that does add another little.
Yeah, but then that's hardly unusual for a survival genre game, but it is, I guess, new to Fallout in the fact that you can't just turn that off, because Fallout 4 had a survival mode, but you could turn that off if you didn't want to play it. This is a case of it's a necessity. Yeah,
and radiation is a serious risk throughout the whole game. Everything you eat or drink pretty much is irradiated, so you have to find ways of managing that, which is par for the course for a survival game. Another really good point I'd like to make is just the sheer volume of different enemy styles. Seems they've really pulled it from across the entirety of the Fallout series.
Yeah, and actually some new ones as well.
Yeah, some really diving into the depths of the local myths and legends that are going, and legends from around the area. As you stated earlier, the Wendigo.
Yeah, exactly like the ones from Until Dawn. It's terrifying.
But even getting into more local of the Mothman, obviously around that region, the Mothman legend or myth or whatever you would put it down as, is quite popular. It's where it stemmed from, and it does play a huge part.
Actually, thought of this literally just now in the last couple of minutes while you start talking about enemy types. Let us know in the comments, because would you guys be interested in seeing a lore video concerning the origins of these more infamous enemies like the Mothman and the Grafton monster and things like that? The real world myths that inspired the creations in Fallout.
Yeah, the cryptids that exist in the real world.
Yeah. Do you want would a lore video concerning them be of interest to you guys? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll have a look onto that. But yeah, anyway, sorry, that was an aside, just an idea I just had.
But yeah, stemming from that, the perk system, the perk cards that you get, I actually really enjoy this system. An awful lot of creativity. The fact that although you select your cards to determine particular traits that you have, particular benefits that you would have, say for example taking less radiation when you eat or drink, to doing more sneak attack damage, this is all dependent on your level, but you can change it out on the fly. It's not set in stone.
Yes.
If you are running through a particularly nasty area with a lot of enemies about, you could tweak your cards to be a little bit more combat orientated. Then say you wipe out that entire area and you have to get through a locked door, you can take those cards out, put in the ones that correspond to lockpicking, and boost it a little bit further that way.
But then I'd counter that by saying, wouldn't it be nicer just to have like the old style perk system where it's just you learned lockpicking and then it's active and you don't have to switch it out? It's actively a part of your character build now. I
do agree to an extent, but obviously it being an online game and everyone having their own specialities, it wouldn't make it particularly enjoyable to have everyone be these super over-the-top powerhouses, and especially if you tend to end up focusing in one area more than another. Say you're the one in your group that has the decent controller, so therefore you deal with the lockpicking. Eventually you end up spending all of your perk points on lockpicking, and you can't put it into, say, more combat orientated abilities.
To be fair, that is a legitimate that's kind of how me and you have been playing, isn't it? I went down the armory path and everything like that, while you went down gunsmith path, and I've been the one maintaining your, repairing your armor to 130, 150% of capacity.
I've been the one that's been modifying your weapons so you can get a little bit more bang for your buck per se.
Exactly, and needed a silencer on my rifle, so I had to give it to you because I'm not a gunsmith, but you were able to attach it and then return it.
And that does point into the state of, this is ultimately a multiplayer game and it is designed to be enjoyed with friends.
Yeah.
So, let's address the elephant in the room, I suppose. We're going to get onto the cons.
I'd hardly say it's an elephant in the room, and more like the elephant takes up 90% of the room. I did allude to it before. I am having fun playing this, which is why we opened with the pros. But I cannot recommend people go out and buy this game for full price, or even though it's on sale now. It's still not until it's fixed, because there are a lot of problems with it, both in design.
It would be disingenuous.
Exactly. And there are problems both in design choice as well as bugs and glitches. For example, one that I think is very much not down to glitches, and I alluded to it earlier with the lore, is the fact that there is so much lore here, but this feels like a case of... I've already made a video before called The Importance of Canon and Lore in just anything, and adhering to it. But this, I feel like, is an example where the game is nothing but lore and facts and information, and it's spread all throughout this world for you to uncover, but it's so fragmented, and to be fair, it's all text-based, it's all audio-based, which does your attention drift, or at least mine does, while I'm trying to siphon it all together into something cohesive. And I just find it hard to follow a single narrative thread of lore through missions, through quests, anything like this. This is why I've not done many lore videos on it, because it's been... finding out information is so sporadic and so all over the place that trying to create a single cohesive story out of it is so taxing.
And not just that, but as you said, as it's all text-based and audio-based,
yeah,
it's very much a case if someone runs up to you, because there is no push to talk in this game.
No,
if someone has a mic and starts screaming down at it, it's really distracting.
Yeah,
you could miss some very key points.
I've been fairly lucky on that so far. It's not affected me that much when I've been playing it single player.
I have not.
Yeah. You've had instance of a...
Yeah, I think someone must have had a budgie in their room or something, because that's all I could hear. And it being so high-pitched, it carried a long way. So they were a long distance away from me, and I still couldn't hear the audio from this thing.
Okay, so the second big gripe that I have with it, again, is less a matter of the glitches and things like that. So, I mean, there are a lot of glitches and bugs in it, so I'm going with things that are actual choices that they've picked. You know, conscientious decisions that they've made to change things from the Fallout formula. The biggest one, and I didn't think it would bug me as much as it does, is the fact that there are no human NPCs. Put it bluntly, it really affects the... Well, to be fair, the level of shits that I give about certain quests. Like, I pick up a quest from a terminal or a holotape, but everyone's dead. Everyone involved with that quest is dead. What does it matter if I resolve it or not? There's no one to report to. I get some loot at the end of it and some experience, but in a character level, like in a character experience at a fundamental level, it feels like nothing I do really matters, because what's the point?
Why should I care?
Everyone's dead. Yeah. You know, I didn't think it would bug me as much as it does, because Fallout 4 and previous Fallout games, Codsworth was a robot. I liked him. Curie was a robot for 50% of the game. I liked her. You know, I didn't think it would be that big of a thing. Three Dog over the radio, just a voice throughout the majority of it, but so much personality that I liked him. So I didn't think
Nick Valentine, possibly the best character in that game.
Technically a robot, okay, yeah. But yeah, you get the point. It's like, I didn't think it would bug me as much as it does. But it really does. The world is so beautiful and expansive and empty. Yeah, it's just nothing. It's just like... following a series of tapes, like, I won't go into spoilers here because I know you're playing through this questline and I don't want to ruin it for you, but the Mistress of Mystery questline, following it right through to the end, got to the conclusion, found out why they're all dead, what happened to them, and I was just like, oh, that's such a tragic story, that's so sad. Okay, where's my loot, where's their stuff, because they're all dead anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Welp.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know, there's no emotional investment in any of the quests because you can't put a face to them. And after you've met your 18th faulty Protectron or your 20th Codsworth, it's just... Why do I care? Yeah, and then I guess the last thing, of course, is the PvP aspect.
Yeah.
Again, this is the third...
PvP aspect?
Yeah, this is the third of my sort of conscious choices that they've made. The PvP aspect is, well, as we've discussed, it's largely irrelevant, and there is no real incentive to be a sort of a raider type that goes out actively hunting other players. The only time I actively get to engage in any sort of PvP is when I spot a marked player or a player with a bounty on the map, which indicates he's taken out another player, he's killed another player, so I'll go after them to claim the bounty. Even then...
Which ultimately only resolves in you getting their junk that they have collected and a few caps.
Yeah.
But the problem with it giving caps is caps are largely worthless in this game.
Yeah, fast travel and that's about it. There's no point in using them to buy ammo or anything because there's plenty of ammo lying around the wasteland and you can craft your own anyway. Yeah, but yeah, those are my three probably big design, deliberate choices that they've made that I think have lessened the experience of the game for me. So again, not counting all the bugs and the glitches, these were 3 things that are deliberate design choices that have ruined it for me. Like the lore being too sporadic.
And also, it kind of goes against the Fallout canon, just throwing that one out there.
Yes.
There are an awful lot of inconsistencies.
Yeah, it's one of those, I think from what I've managed to put together so far, there are a lot of things where it's like, technically, it doesn't go against canon because these super mutants came from a different FEV-laden vault. And it's like, right, so they're not part of the Master's regime, but still, it's super mutants cropping up here at the exact same time, but they should be over the other side of the world. Same with the Brotherhood of Steel. It's not the Brotherhood of Steel, it's another order being raised on the same philosophy over the other side of the landscape. But it's like...
So why call them Brotherhood of Steel?
Yeah, why? Branding.
Well, I'll be perfectly honest. I'm going to be a little bit more brutal than you with my downsides. You were fairly reserved in the fact that it was the conscious decisions of theirs. I'm going to kick this one straight off by saying just the technical issues of this game is unbelievable.
Yeah.
The playtime that I've had with it, I can't say there's more than 5 minutes that have gone past without a bug showing up.
Yeah.
Some, granted,
some
very minor.
Yeah.
Some of them pretty big, in all honesty.
Yeah, they vary. They vary from things like texture popping when you're only like 5 feet away from something, all the way through to like complete and total system crashes.
Yeah. The amount of times that I've started the game to move a foot forward and the game crashes immediately.
Should probably point out we are both playing on PS4.
Yeah, obviously your experiences may differ. This is actually something I was going to touch on. I'll touch on it a little bit, but the engine limitations, which actually span different scenarios for each different platform that you're playing. So PS4 has different technical issues to the Xbox, which has different technical issues from the PC,
I feel like from what I've seen, they've all got the same issues, but in different quantities.
Well, let's explore the camp system. So the camp system, for those who haven't played it, it's a way of setting down a base. It's the base building aspect of this game. So you place down a small camp. You can then build things around that camp using the junk items to build walls, crafting benches, etc. So the base building aspect of this game, the fact that you put down your camp, you will construct walls, foundations, crafting benches, cooking stations, etc. The PS4 and the Xbox actually have different patch notes because the PS4 had more issues with the base building side of things. There are more associated bugs with that, and therefore the updates that they actually produced, which was an enormous update when the game first started.
Was that the size of the game, wasn't it? Like 50 gig?
I think it was half the size of the game. I think it was 118 gig and it was 47 gig update. But that was our update. But I know the Xbox One players actually had a different sized update because they had different problems. It's a trash can of a game.
Yeah. Like they're not even like being as it's online, you can't. An error crops up in a single player game, you can reload a previous save.
Yeah, this isn't an option. And the way that it deals with this, granted it's quite an intuitive way, that it kind of saves the game specific to where you are, how many other players are there and how often it saves it. But because of that, you end up with server issues. So I know both me and Rick's have had issues where we have fired upon an enemy several times and it's done nothing. Yeah,
not even registered. No damage whatsoever.
They haven't detected that you're there. It's like you weren't there at all.
There was one time walking down the road with this is back to the texture pop-in one. Like I was going down the middle of a highway and you were shouting at me to stop and you were like, hermit crab. I was like, what? And you were like, hermit crab. Right in front of you. And I was like, I don't see a hermit crab. And then it loaded in and I was like 10 foot away from it and a giant hermit crab.
And it immediately come out and decided to attack you.
Yeah, meanwhile, Tyr had seen it
ironically,
seen it from like 50 foot back. But my console just decided not to load it in.
And then, to compound on top of that, it just decided to stop moving halfway through the fight. So it become a bit of a cheese killing it, because it did in effect, it just T-posed for the last half of the battle.
Yeah, I didn't feel guilty about that.
No, I think that was a free gimme from the game.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, in regards to the server lag, you will be firing upon enemies and going through, and then say 5 minutes later, you get a little message pop up saying that ammo has been removed and certain things have been added, because the server just cannot keep up with what you're doing for that amount of people everywhere.
Yeah, it's so strange. It's like there's only 20 people per map and they're all spread out, but yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just buggy. It's just buggy and poorly optimized.
Yeah, I mean, poorly optimized in the fact that the frame rates are atrocious at times.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like it'll run quite solidly, and then other times I've had it drop down to like 7 frames a second.
Yeah, like I've had, I know I've been lucky. I've had about 5 complete system crashes since I've been playing, and I know that's quite a small number because I've seen the videos out there. I've had a relatively bug-free experience. Nothing's really damaged my gameplay except for my camp disappearing several times. And
yeah, the camp disappearing is an optimization that they decided to put in, that if you loaded into a world and someone had a camp in the general vicinity of yours, it would, instead of figuring out who stayed there, it would just immediately go, no, you can't have your camp anymore, we've put it all into storage.
Oh, but it's okay. It's okay because it puts it into storage as a blueprint, so you can quite easily plop it down again on a new patch of land, can't you?
Oh, but unfortunately, because of the way that the land is designed and the extra stuff that's around, the trees, the logs, the rocks, it means that it's virtually impossible to place a blueprint back down after you've created it, because it will not put the whole blueprint down. It won't even put a part of the blueprint down. It will just fail entirely.
Yeah, you make a square block, and then you pick up that square block and you try and put it somewhere else, and it's a circular hole. Yeah.
The other issue is with the camp system, that fast travel in this game costs caps. Your fast travel to your camp, to any other party members, to their camps, or to the Fallout Vault 76 is free. Well, the issue with that is if it removes your camp, you no longer have a place to go back to for free.
Right, yeah. Except Fallout 76 right at the start of the game.
Yeah, exactly. You can go back to the very beginning.
I
guess where you might be miles and miles away from.
I guess that's just another one of those things where you look at it and it's just like, that's an annoyance caused by no fault of my own. And to be fair, caps, yeah, what else are you spending caps on? But at the same time, it's something that me as a player, I have no control over this. Why do I have to put up with this?
It's so immersion breaking as well.
Yeah. Moving on to something that's actually been a staple of Fallout, the actual... What do you think of the combat?
The combat... The issue is, previous Fallout games have been heavily influenced by the VAT system that when you click a button, it slows down time and it gives you a percentile amount that you may be able to hit the enemy. That, obviously, it slows down combat significantly.
Very amazing, totally stylized.
Yeah, exactly.
VATs.
However, in an online environment, you can't have it slow down time the way it does. And an awful lot of the enemies that you have in this game, especially the weaker ones, feral ghouls, they are radiation affected people that have gone feral, as the name would suggest. Their main way of attacking you is by group mobbing you and melee attacking you, which, if you're able to slow down time, you can pick them off as they're coming towards you. However...
Or the game can pause while you switch to a shotgun.
Yeah. In this, it doesn't do that. It's permanently online. Other people have that experience. If it's slowed down for one person, it would slow down for everyone. So, it doesn't do that. However, it means that if you have a mob of enemies and all you have is a rifle on you, you are going to get wrecked by them.
Yeah.
In the early stage of the game, anyway. When you're later on in the game, it does virtually no damage, but that's an entirely separate issue.
Well, unless you're up against ones of equal level, then it's still going to wreck you.
Which is another issue, that the leveling system in this game is awkward with enemies. You can have ones of equal level that are virtually impossible to beat, and ones of much lower level that a single bullet and the weakest gun can take out immediately in the same area.
Yeah, you wondered what the hell was happening to me like ages ago when we were playing earlier, because you heard me sort of like groaning in frustration, and you asked me what am I fighting. I was like, I'm fighting a rad rat, just a fairly generic giant rat, but it was so blooming hard to hit because it's right down by my feet. It was so tanky for a rat. It was 5 levels lower than me, and the little vermin shoved me off a blooming cliff and got me killed.
Which was quite amusing from my point of view. To go with the fact that you said to switch to, say, a shotgun,
yeah,
it's the UI. The UI in other Fallout games, it would pause when you go into the menu, so it didn't matter that it wasn't necessarily the most intuitive menu. Yeah. The problem is, again, it being always online, this menu is up whilst everything else around you is happening. So if you're needing to switch to a shotgun that you neglected to put on your favourites bar, you quite easily get destroyed in the meantime.
And I don't know about you, but I find the favourites bar quite difficult to navigate on the fly anyway. It's not a very good wheel.
It's not intuitive at all. You know, the whole idea of bringing up a Pip-Boy, you know, the little screen on your arm, it's cool. It's very staple. But it's not good at all in this game.
Yeah, what's wrong with just letting me pick 4 weapons and then mapping them to the D-pad?
Yeah, now instead you've got a circular ring that you have to navigate, which for consoles isn't great, but for PC players that it's just been ported across is apparently awful.
Yeah, this game was designed with consoles in mind, I think. So I do think PC players are having an even rougher time of it.
And just as the last kind of point on the combat, the way that it spawns enemies in is how many people it has in the area, which is all well and good until a new person enters that area.
Yeah.
And all of the enemies respawn. No matter where you are, they will just appear in front of you.
And if the person entering the area is a higher level than you, all
Guess
the
what?
enemies, all the enemies that spawn in are at that new player's level. So suddenly you walk in on I'm on level 30. So I walk into an area, empty it out from level 30, so think that's tough, pop stim pack. Level 86 player walks in. Suddenly I'm surrounded by a level 68 super mutants, and I'm just like, oh dear. But despite all of that, I am having fun, I think. you know, playing with another person is way more fun than not. Because you're saying like people partnering up, partnering up with randos, that's not happening. Like, I do not see that happening anywhere.
Or if it does, it's for free transport and perks that you get for being in a party. That's the literal only reason that anyone has ever come to me and said, hey, do you want to join this party? I need to get to the other side of the map.
I've not had that yet.
Yeah, that's happened a few times. Yeah, weird as it sounds, I am enjoying it as well. Just, I don't know how long-lived that will be.
Yeah, I'm level 30 now, you're level 30-ish as well. By the time I'm level 60, I don't know if I'm still going to be as vested in this as I am. Probably not.
Yeah, but it's highly unlikely.
Yeah.
We were discussing the last time we were playing this how burnt out you can get as a single player.
Yeah.
And I only can guess that this is not going to last a great deal of time before even getting burnt out as a multiplayer.
Yeah.
It's going to be a thing.
Now, and like I say, I consider myself among the subset of people that do enjoy this game, and I am finding enjoyment from this game, but I'm not blind to all of its issues. I'm not going to defend it. It is a shoddy mess of a game.
It's a broken game.
Yeah.
With bad choices from the start.
This is why
that should have never come out.
This is
at the
why,
time it has.
Despite saying that we would earlier, we were going to do playthroughs and lore videos covering Fallout 76, but just the nature of the game itself, the design decisions behind it, and its instability in terms of playthroughs, just it makes it too difficult to do like a playthrough. Plus, what would I be playing through? I'd be stopping every 5 minutes to read a screen and a terminal, and that's dull.
And not to mention the amount of side quests and everything. It's 9 times out of 10 you just ignore it.
Yeah.
It takes up space on your screen until you go into that
that's annoying,
clunky UI system to turn off all of these extra notifications. And as soon as you enter a party, you get all of their notifications on there as well.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. That's so annoying. I want all those objectives down the side of the screen. I want them to go away. Get off my screen. You're ruining it.
So, I mean, maybe we could live stream it.
Maybe. I'd have to get
you could maybe have a laugh at some of the bugs that we encounter.
Oh, yes, there will be some. Unless they actually patch it out and fix it.
Which, in all honesty, is not going to be a quick process.
No.
Bethesda are known for having buggy games.
You said...
But this is taking the biscuit. There is an awful lot of stuff to patch here.
Did you say the first update's in December? Or the second, rather?
I think the second update is on it's either on the 2nd or the 4th of December.
Early December.
But it's a lot lower key than what was previously done as that update. There are a lot of quality of life things coming through, such as, say, push to talk, field of view scalers for the PC, maybe a stash limit update.
That would be nice.
Yeah, it's that's a quality of life. But it's going to be a slow process, and it's not mentioning a lot of the game-breaking bugs. You know, quests that can't be finished, people's characters being permanently over-encumbered, having too much on them, even though they've got nothing there.
I saw an article the other day about another player that's accidentally made themselves immortal. They've actually reached out to Bethesda to be like, kill me!
The joys of a nuclear apocalypse. Occasionally you end up being immortal.
Yeah, you turned into a ghoul. Well done.
So, yeah. Will the updates fix it?
Will there be updates to fix it is what I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
I really just don't want Bethesda to sweep this under the rug and be like, okay, we tried. Bye-bye now. I'm gone. Like,
well, with the legal trouble they're getting into now.
Potentially, yeah. There's been talk that there's lawyer firms like been looking into basically what amounts to sort of false advertising and those sort of things, because the game being in such an unfit state to play, and then their returns policies as well being pretty much
non-existent.
Yeah, you can't really return it because you played it. On the plus side though, Bethesda are open for discussion on their Reddit forums. Their community team is actively out there talking to players, getting feedback from the fan base. As awkward and frustrating as this may be, they are at least listening and they're bearing the brunt of a lot of people's feedback.
Which, to be honest, wasn't originally something they did. That was only through feedback that they decided to be a little bit more open, a little bit more transparent.
Yeah, but at least
giving us patch notes.
Yeah, at least they're not No Man's Skying it.
Yeah. Which, granted, No Man's Sky apparently has got a lot better, but it still leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Oh, yeah.
I can see this happening with Bethesda.
Yeah, like I was super supportive of No Man's Sky when it first came out, but then they went silent, and I was just like, okay, you've killed my interest in it. Bethesda at least aren't doing that. They are being quite open about their developments, with some cattle prodding, but yeah.
So, what would you want to see different out of this game?
2 things each?
Yeah, call it 2 things each.
Okay.
But I'll go first.
Alright, go on then.
So, as unrealistic as it may be, to patch out the more egregious bugs, especially with the camp system.
Okay, yeah.
It's a simple one. There are so many here, and as I said, Bethesda are known for having buggy games, but this is beyond all expectation, and it can really ruin a game, and it is ruining the game. I would say number 2, probably an expansion on the quest types. It focuses heavily on the MMO tropes of go there, kill this thing, press a button, having
beer can.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not interesting. It's not engaging.
Yeah.
How about you?
My 2. I want human characters implemented from the game, NPCs. I don't care whether they're like vault dwellers that have come out of another vault, because I think all the vaults at the minute, the other vaults are still shut. It'd be cool if they open up and more survivors come out, but they're NPCs. That would be cool. To see actual human characters returning to the world, or whether they're coming back in from outside of Appalachia. But I just want to see people in the game that aren't players, because player-to-player interaction is only ever you spot another player, you hit the wave emote, and then you go about your business. That's it. That is the only person-to-person interaction this game has at the minute. You can have more meaningful relationships, like relations with like NPCs. Seriously, it's
the most fun I've had out of dialogue on this is the pre-scripted or the protectrons. They come up with some pretty funny stuff.
Yeah, like Mr. Fluffy.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to see is a complete overhaul of the way objectives and quest markers and things like that work. I want all the objectives off my screen. I don't want them permanently being displayed. Or if I do, just the one active quest that I'm tracking at the minute, I want that off my screen. And there's so many other tweaks, like areas on the map. I can't put down a custom marker over an area that's highlighted by a quest objective, because then it stops tracking the quest objective and then I have to re-enable it. Just things like that make me think this game wasn't play tested enough. What was the beta for?
Enough. I don't think it was play tested at all.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, just a revamp of the quest objective system. Just tidy it up. Tidy up your UI.
It's quality of life. Come on.
Those are probably the two things I'd change. So yours were more like technical things. Mine were two design choices that I want to see undone.
Yeah.
In summary, though, yeah, it is a broken and buggy mess, and I can't, in all good conscience, advocate and be like, yeah, go get Fallout 76. It's great. You'll have the best time. Because you won't. It's a messy, buggy game. I definitely say steer clear of it if you are expecting something like Fallout 5, because this is most definitely not. And to be fair, it wasn't advertised that to begin with, but it was presented as more than just a survival game with a Fallout skin. There are better survival games out there. I don't know, the Fallout flavour to it is enough to keep me interested for a while longer, but I can see myself burning out.
Yeah, I mean, playing solo, I have already burnt out. If you have friends, it could be a good amount of fun, and that's all that really keeps me playing. But with the high price tag of the game, feeling so unfinished, broken, and rushed, I'd avoid it. For me, I've become a bit more skeptical of the Bethesda releases. You know, with Elder Scrolls 6 coming out, I'm going to be putting more questions towards it. As Todd Howard, the director, is starting to fall into the camp of Peter Molyneux style of directing.
Ouch.
Yeah.
So I think that Bethesda Fallout 76 is the get out of jail free card that Bethesda have just used from my point of view. Like, so far, I still think of them as probably my favourite games company. They're still my favourite, but they've used that was their one chance. If more stuff happens to screw them over, then I've lost a lot of respect for that company. Cool. So that's Fallout 76. General opinions of it then. I think now is the part of the show where we move on to our general channel updates. Basically, thanks for listening. If you want to tune out now, it's been real. I mean,
an experience.
Yeah, I'm never saying that again. That was awful. But yeah, it's been real. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you're going to tune out, stay tuned if you want to hear about channel updates and potential stuff that we're going to be doing with the channel, as well as us talk about Article 13. But yeah, if you're still here, let's carry on with the updates. So,
it's about to get dark.
Kinda, yeah. So, current things on the channel, of course, Cultural Index is going to continue, as it's like our flagship. It's the enterprise of our channel. I've started the new series of Mass Effect lore videos, where I'm covering different aspects of the Mass Effect universe, because that's one of my favourite franchises, and apparently a lot of yours too. And then, yeah, there was an idea for a sci-fi series that you came up with, wasn't it?
Yeah, so a while back we had an episode called Why Do Aliens Look Human? And that got my overreactive nerd brain thinking, So we have a cultural index, and that's all well and good. But would their biology be realistic? And what would, for example, a low gravity, poor atmosphere planet life be like? Or why not an entirely energy consciousness really be like? With this information, we could rate a species and how likely they could survive with their respective lore based on real world examples and science. So I pose a question to you, to our viewers. Would you be interested in seeing something like this? Just let us know in the comments.
So like a show that's more about the application of a game's in-game biology and as to how that would function in real life.
And seeing if that kind of thing would be possible, or, you know, whether it would actually have any effect, and how it would end up breaking a species if they had little differences to them.
Could I really hook up with an Asari?
No.
Oh.
It's a video game.
Oh.
No.
My immersion.
So yeah, it's just a kind of thought. I'd be interested to see what people have to think about it.
Yeah. So that was an idea we'll just get some feedback on. As well as, of course, I'm going to continue the Star Trek Online story series, narrating the continuing voyages of the USS Armiger, which, as you may have noticed, is now a completely different ship, but whatever. And that leads me on to saying, I've mentioned it before with the first channel update we did regarding Star Trek Online, but the whole reason, apart from the fact it's relevant to the channel, and the other reason we started doing Star Trek Online content is because our channel relies a lot on Star Trek, and we can't always use footage from the shows because then it gets claimed as copyrighted material. To be fair, rightly so, if we abuse it, if we upload entire scenes, that makes sense. So we're playing Star Trek Online to build what is hopefully a copyright-safe library of relevant footage for Star Trek, so we can continue a lore series without the risk of copyright strikes that would ultimately shut down the channel, for example.
And that builds us onto our next point. It would be potentially copyright safe, and this stems down from Article 13.
Yeah, so briefly, it's a slight alteration of copyright law in the EU, which at the minute Britain is still a part of. Whether or not Brexit goes through in time or not, it depends on when it goes through, which of these laws goes into effect first, this directive or Brexit. Because if we leave the EU, we'll leave with the directives and the laws that are in place, and then they'll have to be systematically revamped. But basically, the alterations in Article 13, it holds the social media platform accountable for copyright violations rather than us. So if I upload an entire episode of Star Trek Discovery to my channel, at the minute, that's my fault. I'm being an idiot. I'm in trouble if CBS want to take legal action. It's me they'll go after. And that makes sense because I'm the one that did it. What changes is that suddenly it's not my fault anymore. It's now YouTube's fault for anything that I do. And on the surface, it's like, oh good, that means I can get away with anything. That's not how it's going to work.
It means you can't get away with anything.
Yeah, because once YouTube's held accountable, they're going to have to make the smartest business decision. They've got so much content being uploaded to their site that they cannot afford to risk any of it potentially infringing on anyone's copyright from anything. TV, music, potentially even video games, even though video game companies have always been a bit more lenient with this sort of thing because they want people showing off the gameplay and everything like that because it's a different media.
Even individuals' content. Take, for example, our outro. That music we have sourced from a creator. We have got the legal rights to use that music freely. We can edit it however which way we want. However, with Article 13, we would still technically be infringing on their copyright. Just as a point, a shout out to the creator of our outro, Technoaxe. You can find him on YouTube if you type in Technoaxe. That is Teknoaxe. Really good guy. Creates some fantastic tracks of royalty-free music.
Yeah, it's awesome. But yeah, for example, YouTube would have to get a license from him and any other creator anywhere to use any of their stuff, not us. Which is very risky from YouTube's point of view, because as a business standpoint, are they financially motivated? Of course they are. But it doesn't mean they're wrong, because if they're held accountable for the content that's being created from any sort of creator, if I use a screenshot from Star Trek to narrate a lore video, YouTube's liable for it. Unless
they're not going to take any chances.
Yeah, unless I can prove and upload a video that's 100% my own work, basically me with a camera on me just talking at a screen, not even showing you what I'm talking about, which is probably boring, and who wants to stare at my ugly mug for like 10 minutes at an end. Basically, it's like the smartest thing for YouTube to do is just simply deny uploads from the EU, because a small percentage of them could be in violation of copyright, even the smallest level, and it relies on companies differentiating between what's fair use and what's not, because Article 13, the directive by itself, doesn't make any differentiation between fair use and not. And to be honest, Britain's never had a fair use policy. It's never had a transformative policy. Their policy's always been for educational purposes and things like that. So it's always been a bit of a grey area, but just because these industries, specifically the music industry, want to grab some more money out of the YouTubes, because it's, in terms of revenue, they're getting less from YouTube than they are from sources like Spotify, they've put it all down to copyright, and they're taking the burden off of themselves, policing their own creations and putting it on YouTube. Again, sounds fine to begin with, but you look at the ramifications for it. The smartest business decision for YouTube to then make is to just simply deny uploads from the EU, because they might infringe copyright and ultimately cost YouTube millions and millions of dollars.
Not just uploads as well. This could actually just block all access to YouTube in the EU.
Yeah, so that's very much the worst case scenario, but even the best case scenario means things get 100% more complicated, which is why we're trying to build a copyright safe, hopefully, library of content we can use. It just means I'll have to use Star Trek Online footage in the background of my videos, which I've been doing anyway, and as long as it's relevant, I don't think it matters too much. But even then, technically, Star Trek Online is owned by Perfect World or ARC Entertainment. So where does that fall under this new legislation? It is nuts. I don't understand how it's going to work at all. But like I say, all these preps that we're taking to try and maintain the channel, that means nothing if they just decide to pull out of Europe entirely.
If this is the case, we will let you know beforehand. We won't just disappear.
Yeah, but if we do just disappear, that's probably why.
They have found us and we are going underground.
But it won't just be us. It will be any channel that uses anything like an image from a show that they don't own. It'll be... So the majority of lore channels are going to go. The majority of guides and things like that. A majority of reviewers as well, because I found out if you're not a certified press source, you are also liable for, under the same article, under Article 13, you're liable for the sources and the images that you're posting. YouTube will then become liable for that as well, if you're not a certified official press source, which means independent, your average Joe reviewer is suddenly in violation of copyright, even though it's for review purposes, because they're not an official press reviewer. So
stifling the media much?
Pretty much, yeah. That, again, this is the worst case scenario, but even the best case scenario is not that much better. If you want to know more about it, The Closer Look has done a very comprehensive video on the topic. It's about 25 minutes long, and they're talking about it in reflection to films, because that's their medium that they work with. They work with film techniques and reviews and things like that. So they're looking at it from a media film angle, but it applies to any medium. TV, video game, music, anything. The whole thing just reeks of people creating laws about something they don't understand how it works.
And not having the physical implementation to correctly put it through.
Yeah, they want it all policed by automated drones that can somehow scan through the entire basis of copyrighted knowledge across every medium and deduce whether something's infringing on copyright. There is no algorithm smart enough to do that. You'd need people to physically do that, and that's just not feasible at all for a company to invest that, especially a company like YouTube, which has, I think the statistic is 400 hours worth of video per minute. It's nuts.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't want to go on it for too long because I will talk about it for ages, but basically we're including it in this video because we want just to raise knowledge of it, because it's out of the hands of the public now. It's now being voted on whether or not the law should be passed or if it should be changed in any way, and the only people who can change that are now the people in power. So by raising the discussion about it, I don't know, this is about as much as we can really do. I guess it's probably time to wrap up the show then.
That's right. So on behalf of Certifiably Ingame,
thanks for watching. I've been Rick.
And I've been Tyr.
And thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.